Hey there, Scorpio. Welcome to your reading for the rest of February 2024. Thanks for having patience with me, living life at the same time as doing these recordings. So this is for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising. And then I'd also say, too, if those are in the 8th house, that also applies. I know that's not super normal, but I have a background in evolutionary astrology, and that's how we do it there. It's less about external manifestations of your houses and still more of an energetic signature and the soul and like psychology of things. So if your sun is in the 8th house, this would still apply. Just like saying that, like, it's true for me and I think it's important. So I'm just going to say that. And I'm still kind of figuring out my own flavor of how I want to show up in these videos and what is unique and authentic for me. So I appreciate everyone just like witnessing me in my like learning awkward phase of like learning how to crawl, learning how to talk, and learning what's comfortable for my own setup. So thank you for that. Okay, so let's dive into it. Scorpio, for the rest of February 2024, Sun, Moon, Rising, and 8th house. So, card in the center of your axis mundi, which represent you at the core of this cross section of spirit and physical reality and time. So how are you showing up activated for the rest of 2024 in February? The Mask. It's amazing how often this card shows up, truthfully. So first thing I want to draw attention to is the inherent duality of this card. You can obviously see that half of the card is black and half the card is super rainbow. So part of the inference that we can make based on that, well, there's many, but one is just inherent duality. One is the void and formlessness, and one is image, form, and color, right? Presence. There's something, you know, that we can make sense of on this side of things. And in this, it's no thing, it's all thing, it's void, right? So what this card talks about, well, there's lots of things it talks about. Reel myself in. I have found that lately, like today and yesterday, I have so much like wisdom pouring inside my body. And I'm a little bit challenged in funneling all of that etheric wisdom through my translator of linear language, if that makes sense. So, where's the door? Literally, this card could be like the door. If you're opening one side of that door, it's like, what is behind door number 1? Oh, it's this role, it's this mask. So this mask refers to, the masks we wear for other people. So that's definitely rising sign, by the way. Your rising sign is the role that you play, the mask that you wear when you're engaging with the outside world and in interaction. So whereas for me personally, I am an Aries sun, and so I inherently have that fiery, pioneering, kind of rough disposition about myself. The way that you're interacting with me, my interface that you are experiencing right now, is mainly through the lens of Gemini, as I'm a Gemini rising. So lots of that chit chatter, lots of high expression. So this mask is and that's not a bad thing. And that's the thing. Everything has its inherent struggle and its shining light. It's light and its shadow, right? So in its light, this mask, this software thing that you're engaging with allows us to have a bit of a container in the world. It helps us make sense of things. It gives us a blueprint that we can then operate out of, get information, internalize, and it keeps us safe too, right? If I am, in an uncomfortable situation, I might go to like an anxiety coping pattern of mine as Gemini might be to overtalk, right? Or just share information. I love sharing information, right? So that can be Not necessarily bad thing. It's just the software that I'm wired with. So this mask, this card about the mask is like, what masks are you wearing and for what roles? You know, is it mother, father, friend, sister, employer, you know, spiritual counselor or whatever? And what is the motive behind each one? What is the payoff for each one? And are you happy with the balance of it, the way that it's showing up in your world? Does it need adjustments? All of those questions to sit with. Yeah, that's fair. That's fine. So the feelings of this card could be that one doesn't know themselves without their mask. There could be a feeling of nothingness, of loss, of emptiness without the projection of a mask. So there can be a bit of that depression almost feeling, and feeling fulfilled and glittery and glamour about being seen, right? A mask is still representing a theatrical performance in some way, which assumes that you're being seen. So this assumes that there's no sight, therefore no relation. And this assumes that you're in relation, being seen, and exchanging roles, ideas, identities, all of those things. So big questions around identity, your exchange of energy, adjusting how you might want to be showing up in the world or how you want to be seen, right? So that you can feel inspired and fulfilled. Whenever there's all the colors of the rainbow in a card, I signify that as like all of spirit is here, opposed to just red being root chakra or mostly green being heart chakra. This card has all the colors in it. So that being said, what I want to say is in this whole card, even though we can deduce that, oh, maybe there's some superficiality happening here. Maybe there's a feeling of lost without one's roles. Maybe there's a feeling of feeling hidden or not knowing oneself behind the mask or without the mask. Maybe there's shame to be seen in the deep and the dark and the ugly and the hidden and the secrets, opposed to what you want to project and present out into the world, right? Keeping all that in mind, I want to come back to, I love the shape of these cards being circular, but I want to come back to the fact that there is all the colors on here, I feel like is a reminder that even with our masks, our projections, our fears, our manipulation of how people see us, right? The image we're projecting out in order to gain something in return. All of these things are still mechanisms of spirit, right? Without them, we wouldn't be here living. We wouldn't have life. And that is part of spirit's joy, is that we are spirit's creation, experiencing spirit, right? And so having these roles, having these masks is still a part of God, please don't get thrown off by that word, replace it with whatever you want. It doesn't really matter to me. It's just an easy word. I'm comfortable with it. I used to not be, now I own it. It's not for me a monotheistic set religion sort of figure in the sky or at all. It's just source, whatever. But it is still within the bounds, right, of source's creative expression. This is so Leo and so Gemini. It's a few of the cards really, but again, because of this theatrical joy, right, that comes from expression and exploring all the colors or shades of a soul, of humanity, of the psyche, of the spirit, of the mind, of the body. So yeah, like even though when you see this card, you might inherently just be like, oh, it's so superficial, especially as Scorpio. If the Scorpio placement looks at the mask, could have the tendency of just being like, ugh, it's so fake and superficial, right? But again, coming back to the reality that it has a purpose And we all wear one. Scorpio rising is a mask in of itself, right? So making friends with that and just realizing it's an archetype, just like all of these are. And so back to this side of things, while again, one might get lost in the darkness or the formlessness of it, the other part of that is sort of swimming in this rich possibility, right? Because without form, which inherently has boundaries and is constriction to create a projection and image, there is a structure, right, that we can relate to. So it becomes a thing that then has meaning. This is just peace. This is oneness. This is all of it. This is all of source, right? So there can also be actually kind of a comfort behind it where it's like, this is the humdrum of life. And this is when we finally get to just like breathe and die or meditate and find that peace, whatever that is, right? So I want to say that there's a balance also to this card that is being suggested here, a balance between life and sleep, right? Work and play, like just all of that balance, the spiritual, the unseen and the seen, the spiritual and the physical, the play and the underground shadow work, right? There's balance that's being called into, just being called in inherently by this card. So that's what we're going to say about that. Let's go to upper world influences. What do we got for Scorpio the rest of February 2024? Oh, that's funny. No, it is upper world. I almost said underworld, but when I feel into the energy, it's still up. The Lovers. So, first thing I'm going to say is, yes, it can always mean partnership. So if you're in partnership in some way, form, whether it's, like with an external person or thing, yes, that can be this. I tend to steer away from that because we get so clingy with this whole idea of being in relationship. And even in tarot, truly what the Lovers card means is falling in love with yourself, having a relationship with your higher self that is in alignment, and truly being in love with yourself as your ideal mate. What I adore about this card, so she uses the swan here, and I appreciate that because the story, of course, of the ugly duckling is that, he's a duck and he's ugly and he's outcasted and made fun of. And it's not until he goes, I haven't read it lately, but the gist of the story is that he grows up and like finds a reflection of himself in the water or something and actually realizes that he's a beautiful swan and not an ugly duck at all. So it's a beautiful story that reminds us of our inherent worthiness, our inherent beauty, our inherent worth, which is all signified in these gold pearls. And also just generally, of course, like look at how the card is. It's like this crazy beautiful swan and just like outward rays of abundance. It's total radiance, like I'm in the spotlight. It's the only thing. The whole visual artwork of the card is to bring you into exaltation of that swan, right? And it's coddling that gold pearl inside of its head here and its neck area. It could have been sitting on the egg. It could have been holding the egg, or I'm saying egg, maybe that's important. It could have been above it, but no, it's being held in this space. And so there is, again, a suggestion of not only speaking your inherent worth towards yourself, so self-talk, right? If you had a partner that you were talking to probably the way that you internally talk to yourself, it would be a toxic relationship. Chances are they wouldn't be putting up with that stuff, right? I'm just going to owe it and say me, and I know that I'm not alone. How about that in that? So there's an indication of self-talk here. But also being around the head area is how you think of yourself, how you value yourself, how you see yourself, right, as beautiful. And remember too that swans are like pretty aggressive. And oh man, yeah, this is saying something to me. I'm struggling with this lately. Being aggressive about standing your ground in your own value, your own divinity, your boundaries, not apologizing, that yellow, that radiance refers to the solar plexus chakra, which is where your sun lives, basically. Your sun lives here. So imagine this card like this, and you are just emanating that sunshine from here, which informs your confidence, right? There's a sense of confidence, shining your light, not being apologetic, taking up space on the stage, being seen, and being like, yo, man, I'm fucking beautiful. Oh, I don't think I can say that on YouTube. I don't know what the rules are on YouTube. Anyway, I'm beautiful and I'm going to be aggressive about it. I mean, don't hurt people. I don't mean it that way, but yeah, I think I've made my point. Just like really being empowered, right, by your own transformation. And that's a great keyword anyway. For Scorpio is transformation. So I'm just seeing, like, again, coming back to this card of like shedding your masks, putting your mask down, allowing them to shed, and allowing yourself to be remade and transformed into something bigger and better. So maybe even though you don't realize right now, or you do feel like you're kind of like an ugly duckling on the outside, or something, the cosmic forces in your corner, the upper world, the things that are going for you and supporting you are the levers. So self-love, which is really important because Scorpio inherently, as a pathology of the archetype, is about so many things, but including self-loathing can be a part of that. So love, self-love. And if you have actual love in your life, that's not fair. I don't mean it that way, but relationship love, you know what I'm trying to say, like with a partner, but it doesn't have to be that too. It's like cosmic forces are like, you are in relationship with spirit all the time. So be in that love. That is the archetype of Eros. It's like being madly in love with everything all the time. You are in a dance. You are always dating spirit through the physical manifestations of things. So have fun with it, right? And also like take yourself on a date. Make love to yourself. Have a weekly ritual of self-pleasure. Like, I don't know what it is for you, but make this card happen so it supports you, please. Okay. Energies of the underworld. I think Libra had this too. And it came up for last week's general reading. It comes up a lot. The dead end. Please refer to the other videos, but the energy of the dead end is exactly what it looks like. Feels like a big block. It's a big, gnarly, stuck mess. So the underworld is the energy that is kind of running the show inconspicuously. It's like what you resist persists. It's the shadow. So it's like kind of running the business, but you're not really conscious about it, right? And so the dead end to me is like a few things. It feels like giving up. In this reading, it feels like giving up. There's a lot of sadness. I hear you. Again, inherent in the archetype of Scorpio, it can represent abandonment, loss, and betrayal. Secrets, abuse, messed up power dynamics, the occult and mysticism, the shaman descent, all things taboo and denied and repressed. It is the colon. It is the poop, right? It is the stuff you need to let go of, because fundamentally, Scorpio ruling the colon and defecation, you can actually die from not pooping, right? And it represents emotionally holding on to something so much, because Scorpio can also represent obsession and compulsion, right? So if you're holding on to something so intensely and so obsessively, it can become toxic to you. So much so that you can sacrifice your life, right? And so the card, you know, or the idea there is like, this dead end is like, what are you constipated? For one, are you blocked? Like, it feels like a blockage to me. So maybe that's emotional grief that's blocking. Maybe it's abandonment. Maybe it's betrayal. If you can see this hand up there, it is definitely, there's a boundary. Maybe this is you, right? And just all the emotions in there. And so in that, it's really interesting because if you can see all three cards, well, you can't because I don't have a camera to show you these things, but I'm going to put them up as best I can for you so you can see what I see. So right now the spread looks like this. Okay. And so while we can deduce a lot of things from this mask card, what is presenting through the spread is the colors of the masks up on top and then the darkness on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and say that there's actually a lot of good juju here on this side of the card for you right now, Scorpio, about the roles that you're in. So maybe it's about actually not isolating, not just staying in your house all day, but reaching out and allowing yourself to dip into different faces, different roles, different performances, different experiences so that you can come back and access the love for yourself and for life and for other people, for projects, for whatever it happens to be. So yeah, because that can definitely just feel like a lot of that formlessness, that blocked energy, be black hole. It definitely feels not quite like a black hole and not quite like a knot for you. With Libra, it definitely felt like a knot, but for you, with me feeling into it, definitely feels like a block, like constipation. Yeah. So how can you make a laxative for yourself? Like an emotional or spiritual laxative to get this moving along. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind. I'm going to move on. Food for thought. So in the space of the past or hindsight, we have vision. This card comes up a lot too. That's why they're archetypes, just repeating things. So we've got 2 owls, which are wisdom keepers. We've got 2 trees here. We've got tree rings. They often remind me of like a record though, like the grooves on a record. So there's kind of like this loop that happens. Snake skin, so shedding transformation. A spirit egg. This whole thing is like a vision inside of an egg laid by spirit that needs to be sat on and hatched, right? And then this whole thing represents the journey through the woods, right? Up the mountain and to the top where spirit meets you again and you find safety and accomplishment and yourself in that cave. So what does this mean in the past? I'm not sure yet. Let's pull a future card because I want to see what the whole wheel looks like. So in the future, storm, potent. That's interesting. So now going, horizontally, past, present, future, or hindsight, insight, foresight, we have, I want it to be the right way for you. So past, present, future, okay? And I want you to notice the colors again. Is this the right, yes, this is the right direction. So, not to freak you out, but a little bit of a precautionary. There's still this darkness that's coming over here. It's feeling stormy, okay? But the storm card inherently represents the Tower moment. It is the lightning in the sky. It is the crack of inspiration. So while this, I don't know if you, I'm sure you've seen a lightning storm. So everything is black and ominous and formless, and then all of a sudden, crack, there's lightning in the sky. And it's meant to liberate us from the unseen forces. It's meant to liberate us in a moment of divine genius, to break down and shed us from the structures and things that are not serving us anymore. It's a momentary flash of insight that then lights everything up so you can see things clearly just for a split second, and then it's gone. And you have this moment-to-moment unpredictable map, right? It's almost like sonar in a way. That makes sense in my body. I know it sounds contradictory in words, but just come with me on that one if you can, okay? And if you can't, put it in the F bucket. But yeah, so while there's, and they're on the same side, so moving into that future, what I would say is actually, it's so cool because if you can make that descent into the underworld and move the crud that needs to be moved so that you have a nice emotional bowel movement and let go of that stuff that's blocking you and obstructing your stuff, your, whatever. If you can go here, right, it looks like this. It's like, in one way, this is blocking like that. But if you can go here, it ends up liberating this, okay? So, in its, the storm, again, is that Tower card. There can be a lot of fear around the Tower card. I get it, again, because it's like everything is being burned down. The forest is on fire. Your tower that's been up for 200 years is now just a bunch of rocks on the ground and all your stuff is broken. Now you're homeless. While that is true, remember it's liberation also. So, in the eye of the storm, you can also learn to breathe, center yourself, and learn to harness the energy of that storm. Learn to harness that lightning bolt so that you become the weaver and wielder of that power. Imagine your footsteps, just little electrical pulses between your foot and the ground, and your inspiration, your ideas, you're walking there, as a force literally to be reckoned with. That becomes you. Scorpio, as a reminder, you already are dealing with power dynamics. So please be a little bit careful that it's not just like, I feel like, bringing everybody down with me, because you can. But also stepping into your power. Wow, what a beautiful thing for you. You are a force to be reckoned with, and you can go out in the world and liberate truths, right? And now is a time for that. It is a time of reckoning. So I feel like if you can actually step into this in a way that's not in its distortion, right? Because we don't want to go around and be threatening people with our lightning bolts and our stingers and being a bully and abusing people and control and power dynamics and continuing the karmic wheel of loss, abandonment, betrayal. But if you can learn to find your real footing in that, where your source of power is and how you manifest it into the world, you can make this come true, which is informing your entire journey. You can have this, right? Just know how to wield it appropriately and for the blessing and benefit of the evolution of humans. Okay? But evolution and reckoning and becoming isn't always nice and a walk in the rose petal park, right? We want it to be, but it's not. So don't be afraid of this. Just be aware of this. And remember to always come back to your breath and center. And sometimes this is a survival guide. This is okay, right? It's okay. Just want to say that. Do I want to say, I'm not getting a whole lot of information on the vision. I'm going to use, so I just got this deck, and I have to say, so it's the Sacred Ripples deck. I've seen it a few times in the last few years, and I've just been wanting it for a long time. Finally got it. Love the energy of the deck. Love the illustrations. Hate the new card stock. Used to be a different card stock. I don't know why they changed it. Terrible idea. I'm very resentful. If I can get an older version of this deck, if anyone has, I will trade you. If you are watching this and you have the older version of this deck with the glossy and thinner cardstock, I will trade you. I will trade you this brand new deck. It's got the thicker cardstock that's more matte-like. I hate it. You might love it. That's my plug. Okay, so Sacred Rebels for the Vision. Can I get just a clarification card to help us understand this? I see I'm already at 30 minutes, so I am going to wrap this up. I'm going to let you just have that inform what the vision is anyway. Saw this. Power of attraction. Which is actually really cool if you think about the lever being in that cosmic space. Right? And the forces that are helping you are the levers. And then in the past, for a clarification card with this vision, we've got power of attraction. Be careful with projection, though. It's cool because this is power of attraction, but be careful with projection. Attraction is both, it's technically a Venus word, but it is also a Pluto word, which means it's a Scorpio word, because it's attraction and repulsion, like a magnet. That is the power of Pluto, which rules Scorpio. Attraction and repulsion. So you may be wanting to attract a vision or people to bring that into reality. And as a result, in order to deal with all of those people, you have to wear certain masks. It's the reality of life. And you might find in this upcoming 2 weeks that it's maybe a bit stormy for you. But then come back into your own power and remember that everyone is a sacred mirror. So the shadow that you're experiencing in someone else is a shadow that they are experiencing in you. It's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong. Doesn't mean you're wrong. It does require adjustment though, and it requires purging, okay, so that you can come back into right relationship with higher self, okay, and design, and come back to seeing every person in the reflection of divinity. Every person is a reflection of you, right? So if you're having a hard time and walking in conflict, something I'm trying to walk with personally right now is, if I'm dealing with this much shadow in my interpersonal relationships, I will learn from that sacred mirror. I will. And I will learn how it brings me back into my power. And I will learn how to be better at it, how to put on different, conflict resolution, use maybe different language, use a different angle. It's not manipulation in a deceitful way if you're in a true relationship. It's to seek out right relation. And if you do that, please bring me just as many reflections of myself in my magnificence through other people, or more, than the shadowy aspects I'm experiencing. Okay, universe? I will experience my own divinity through a shadow and other people, but I am saying to you right now, I also want to experience the manifestation of my divinity in its beautiful light and shine in relationship, right? Holding that for all of us. You can use that. Okay. I am now talking more than I meant to. So I'm just going to pull an Archangel Michael card and then we're going to close out. I just want to say thank you for being with me. If anyone's got this, Scorpio, you do. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of a crunchy reading. But not every day is going to be an easy day. Not every week is going to be an easy week. And it's about re-empowering yourself, you know, through the storms you weather, you get to know yourself. Through suffering, we are initiated, you know, and that's part of Scorpio. And it's part of our time. It's part of our times right now. So doesn't mean you're always going to be in it. Doesn't mean you don't get moments to take a rest and have a breath. Doesn't mean not all of it is beautiful. You know, remember, it's all held by spirit. And also, you might have to put your work boots on today. Check out this song by Dr. Dog, Black Hole. I love this song. Maybe you'll resonate with it. Okay. Archangel Michael card. Keep your eyes on the targeted intention. Okay. My prayer. Thank you, Archangel Michael, for helping me focus on my inner vision and intention. I ask for your guidance in releasing any fears or doubts, granting me the confidence and courage to take action towards realizing my dreams. So let this inform you. Okay? Even though it's in the past, it doesn't actually matter because time is not linear, really. And also it's hindsight. So you're allowed to bring that with you all the time. As you're marching forward and paving the way, you're carrying this with you in your backpack. Okay? So still with you all the time. You're just forging the way to make this happen. That's what it feels like. You're going to burn down the forest to get your morels. All right? All right. Okay. Thanks for being with me. Love you. Good luck this week. Bye.